This is the 10th annual First Coast Expressway Summit. This is the 10th year. And as we all know, the Expressway is predominantly complete through Clay County. So we want this to be a celebration. We want it to be fun. We want it to be something that everybody enjoys and everybody recognizes. We also want to honor those that came before us that put the blood, sweat, and tears into making this happen from so long ago. So with that, I want to again say thank you for coming. By the way, I am Crawford Powell. I'm president of Clay County Economic Development Corporation, if I can get that all out. And thank you again for being at this event. Let me go back and kind of start a few things over again. This morning is a conversation about the future of Clay County. And it's a conversation that centers around the completion through Clay County of the First Coast Expressway and the bridge and the section through St. Johns County and the interchange on I-95, making it 100% complete. But this morning is also about history. It's about those who stepped into the gap for this community and got involved to make things happen 25, 30, 40, 50 years ago, who were able to see it through to a completion. How many of you this morning have seen somebody you have not seen in 25 years? It's pretty cool. 20 years. So this is a day of history. So with that, we have a number of distinguished visitors with us today that we would like to take a moment and recognize. I will call them out in alphabetical order if they will please stand and be recognized. If you have family or supporters with you, if they would also stand with you. First on the list, Mr. Jerry Agresti. Jerry, congratulations, you're first. The bad part is if you will remain standing when everybody else stands up. Next on the list, Mr. John Bowles. Next on the list, Senator Jennifer Bradley. I thought I saw. Yes, she couldn't make it. Okay, I'm sorry. I was told she probably would, so thank you. So following Jennifer, of course, comes former Senator Rob Bradley. So if you'll stand up. Former Lieutenant Governor Jennifer Carroll. Commissioner Betsy Condon. Sheriff Michelle Cook. Former Commissioner Wendell Davis. Christine Uhlenfeld. I apologize. Representative Sam Garrison. Mr. Bill Garrison. Former Commissioner Diane Hutchings. Mr. Matt Justice. Mr. John Mahoney. Mr. Jack Myers. Commissioner Jim Renninger. I apologize, sir. Former Commissioner, Ms. Cherie Stewart. Mr. John Tabor. And County Manager, Howard Wanamaker. If you would join me in a standing round of applause for this group. Thank you. You may be seated. I will tell you a little secret as we were trying to determine who's who and what's what and how's how, and we were provided a county transportation committee that was an ad hoc committee that served approximately 2003, 2004 to about 2007. And that's where many of the names that you saw were recognized. The principal purpose for that committee was to do what needed to be done to make the First Coast Expressway the success it is today. And that's what these people did, among others. There are several notable exceptions that could not be here with us today. For those of you that were involved in this process, the first name that comes to mind to everyone is Ms. Stephanie Kapelousis. So she was a driving force in Clay County and in the state of Florida to make the expressway happen. The next name that came to our mind was Mr. Travis Cummings. I begged Travis to come this morning, and he was obligated to many other different directions, but Travis played a significant role in making this happen. Mr. Doug Conkey was a former commissioner at the time that the expressway took off on the second and third phases through Clay County. Mr. Ronnie Robinson was also a commissioner at the time that the expressway was quote, groundbroken at Blanding coming into Clay County. And last but not least, Mr. George Egan with Reinhold Corporation was very involved with the expressway and the continuation of it through Clay County. So let's give all of those who could not be with us. I pray that I did not leave out anybody that I should have recognized. If I did, please let me apologize on behalf. We did the best we could with the information we made available. There are sure others that had a significant impact, and so we appreciate what they've done through this county. Each of the tables pick a leader. We did that. Leaders, do you remember who you are? This is kind of like that question when you go to the doctor and they give you 5 things to think about and they come back and ask you, so just be aware, guys. So we're all good. All right. At this point, I would like to recognize, and we have a house full of honored visitors, and I'm going to start with elected officials at the federal level. So Congressman Aaron Bean's office is well represented. If you will please stand and be recognized. At the state level, Representative Sam Garrison and his staff, please be recognized. And I apologize, does Representative Sapp have any staff here that I didn't? Okay, I just wanted to make sure I covered everybody. She just walked in somewhere. So, yeah, she just walked in. Thank you. So let's moving down to the local level. If you are a local elected official, county, or any of the cities, will you please rise and be recognized? If you were part of a local staff, you the guys and girls that really make things happen when you need to happen. If you are city staff, city manager, county staff, county manager, please also stand and be recognized for the work you do. So thank you. These are the people that get the phone calls after the commissioners get the phone calls. So that's kind of how that works. So we appreciate it. So we appreciate all of you being here with us today. And last but not least, my favorite people in the whole wide world. If you're on the Clay EDC board, would you stand and be recognized so we can appreciate what you encourage us to accomplish? So, thank you, guys. Thank you. So, all right. Let's see. With that, we've got a great lineup of presentations. We're excited to hear from a broad variety of speakers this morning. Starting out with Mr. Jim Knight, Florida Department of Transportation. Jim, I'll call you up later, so don't get excited right now. So we'll do that in a little bit. We have a local historian that's going to give us some perspective on the history of the First Coast Expressway. I'm going to ask you a question while we're doing history stuff. For those that were at the County Commission meeting last night, you can't play. And I'll come back to the question later. How far back do you think conversations about what if, what could be, what would it do, what impact would it have to have a First Coast Expressway through Clay County? Just think about, as we go through the meeting, how far back you think those conversations actually started before dirt was moved. Sharice, you can't answer either. So we'll hear from FDOT. We'll then get an update on the roadways and what's going on in Clay County. We will get a review of what's going on the bridge over troubled water from Walter Kloss with WGI. Sorry, Walter, I threw that in there for you. But first, we would like to call our premier sponsor representative, John Mahoney, to come give us a brief update on what all's going on with the Coy Engineering, and they're part of Baxter and Woodman companies, and we really appreciate their support of this meeting this morning, but more so their support of what's going on in Clay County. So, John, if you are ready, we would love to have you come forward.
Well, thank you very much, Crawford. I wish I could do this on a happier occasion. I know today is tax day, so please. No, we're gonna have a little bit of fun here. I am gonna touch a little bit on my experiences, which has been about 40 years here. So, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Clay County's 5th Annual Expressway Summit. My name is John Mahoney with Baxter and Woodman Company, and we are truly honored to be your sponsor. We are here today with a continued commitment to give back our time, our talent, and our resources to Clay County. And we just love our county, and we have grown so much, and I'll share some of that with you in the last 40 years that I've been around. Just in the past year, that commitment has already been taking shape. You know, we try to sponsor and share with our community as much as possible, or when asked. So last quarter, we ended up honoring a local Clay County student with a $2,000 scholarship, and we were a major sponsor for the fair. This year also marks a milestone for Baxter and Woodman. It is our 80th anniversary of practicing engineering. And, 80 years in this business is hard to maintain, building communities and planning communities and growing with communities. All of us in this room are fortunate to live and work here in Clay County. It is a very special place. It is a place that has natural beauty. It is a place that has historic significance. And it's a place full of opportunity. I am a proud native Floridian. My 5th generation grandfathers, of which one was a plantation owner here in Northeast Florida, and the other one was a privateer during the American Revolutionary War. And I don't know if you know it or not, but when a privateer is not sponsored by a country, they're considered pirates. And so I don't know where that comes from. One of my favorite early memories is helping my brother build a nature trail, including a monkey bridge, for the Girl Scouts at Camp Shawiniwa back in the 70s as part of his Eagle Scout project. My father was a train conductor for the Silver Meteor. It's the same train that passes through Clay County every day. So as a kid, I grew up thinking engineers drove trains. But as I got older, I realized engineering is something even bigger. It is about building the infrastructure and developing relationships necessary to keep communities like ours moving forward. And that is exactly why being here and investing in Clay County's future means so much to me. In high school, I built my first beach house and retaining walls on the Gulf Coast. It didn't really matter what we were building. I just loved creating something tangible, something that would last and be useful for others. This passion led to this engineering idea. After college, I spent 7 years with the Army Corps of Engineers, gaining hands-on experience before starting a consulting career here in Clay County with Stone Engineering in 1986. Today, I have been an engineer in this region for nearly 47 years. And over that time, people often ask me, what do engineers do? Probably still asking that question. At its core, engineering is about turning ideas into reality. We take science, we take vision, we take planning, and we transform them into building roads and bridges and water systems, creating the very foundations of our society. These things do not just happen by accident. They are thoughtfully designed and built by people who care deeply about empowering the lives of others. Over the years, I have come to believe that is more than just even a profession. It is truly a calling from God. And each of us in this room, we have one. When I look around, I see people who share that same commitment that I have. We may play different roles, but we have the same common purpose. Because in the end of the day, our calling is simple. That is to build this community better, healthier, and more prosperous for the next generation. When I began my career here in 1986, Clay County had a population of about 82,000 back in 1986. And today we are over 240,000. I remember attending one of the Clay County Economic Development meetings back in the mid-'80s. And I remember hearing leaders like Marvin Wilhite, Dale Wilson, Jerry Agresti, and Orrin Pass talking about the future of Clay County. Even then, one of the biggest challenges was the traffic, of course, on Blandy. This then led to more conversations about improving our mobility. And one idea that kept coming up was connecting this Brandonville Road to Jacksonville. Now, nearly 40 years later, we are living the outcome of those conversations. The First Coast Expressway, State Road 23. It is finally here. What began as a vision to relieve congestion has become a transformational corridor that will shape our county and our region for decades to come. And that's worth pausing to recognize. And it's not just the infrastructure itself, but all the people behind it. All the planners and engineers and elected officials and the contractors, all who spent years turning the vision into a reality. The growth like this doesn't just happen through major projects alone. It is also shaped by the smaller, maybe more thoughtful developments that define the character of a community. Projects like Energy Cove Industrial Area, the Oak Leaf Community. These were projects I was involved in a little bit. They are great examples of how careful planning and engineering support responsible growth. They show how local developments and regional investments work together to shape just how a community expands, but how it defines the character. In many ways, Clay County has come a long ways, but we are just at the beginning of what is ahead. Clay County is growing, and the First Coast Expressway is just an example of what thoughtful planning and long-term visions can achieve. The question now is not whether we will grow, it is how we will grow and how we will implement that growth. That's where Baxter and Woodman comes in. We are a full range of engineering services, from transportation, utilities, stormwater, and land development and construction support, helping to guide projects from early conception through final delivery. But more importantly, bringing local, understanding the community, and the commitment to do things the right way. Because in the end of the day, we are not just engineers, we are your partners. Partners in helping communities grow responsible, effectively, and in a way that supports long-term success. As Clay County continues to evolve, we are ready to be part of what comes next. Bring in experience, resources, and dedication needed to help shape our future. To close, I would like to share a short video of the highlights of Baxter and Woodman's capabilities. Thank you for your time, and thank you for the role each of you play in our community. And we look forward to building what is next together. Thank you.
John, thank you so much. You did a great job, and you kind of teed up the thought for the whole morning. So thank you very much for doing that. At this time, John, I want to say too, thank you guys so much for believing in us and what we do for Clay County Economic Development, and thank you for what Clay is doing, what you're doing, being a part of that. So we greatly appreciate that. Look, there's a couple other companies that helped us a good bit this morning, and so we want to say thank you to Florida Power and Light for being also one of our sponsors, and we always appreciate them having a seat at the table and for their investment, both financially, but also from the phone calls. And hey, how can we help you? What can we make do? So we want to say thank you to them. And also we want to say thank you to Brad Glass. And we want to say thank you to DB Kenyon. They've supported several of our events. If you were able to snack this morning when you came in, please thank Brad and his team for providing our breakfast this morning. So we greatly appreciate that. So how many of you saw the agenda? Yeah, okay. Yeah, forget about it. It's a little off. So you can stick it under your table if you feel more better so you don't go back and look and all that. Lindsay said, hey, do we need to put times for everything? And I said, oh no. Oh no. That way I can't be accountable that this went 15 minutes. It was supposed to go 5 or something like that. So, hey, we have a very special guest with us this morning, and we just felt like it'd be great to hear from his perspective of what the county is seeing and doing and going to be. And so please help me honor Sam Garrison to come up and speak on behalf.
Morning, everybody. Let's try that again. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Croft, for the very kind introduction. It's really awesome to see a lot of old friends. John Bowles was town manager in Orange Park for like 5 different times for a total of 500 years, one of which of those I was his lawyer. And if you ever want to know things they don't teach you in law school, being John Bowles' lawyer is one of them, I can assure you. They don't prepare you for certain things. The statute of limitations, fortunately, has expired on most of the light misdemeanors, John, so we're in good shape. This project with the First Coast Expressway, if you're not from here, you might not really understand why we care so much about a road. But this expressway is more than a road. This expressway is the culmination of decades, as we were saying earlier, decades of work and vision and dreaming by people, many of whom are in this room. Some moved on to other places. Some moved on to be with the Lord. But this has been a goal for almost a half a century in this region, in this town. I mentioned John. When I was a town lawyer at the town of Orange Park, they had this room in the back of the town where they kept all these old documents that had been around in the pre-digital era. And one of them was a stapled report that was put together by some precursor of this organization back in probably the Johnson administration. I mean, this is back in the day. And when there was nothing but pine trees on Fleming Island, Obviously a very different time, very different place, but they showed a regional map. And on this regional map, I still have it in my house, there's a little dotted line. It says Future First Coast Expressway. This is in the I wasn't born, all right? This is way back. That's how long this has been a part of the vision of this region. But this road, this expressway, obviously it's the First Coast Expressway. It's Duval County, Clay County, and St. Johns County. But I promise you, in Duval and St. Johns, they're not having the same conversation that we're having here in Clay. And that's because, quite frankly, for a long time, we didn't have a seat at the table as a county, as a region. If I can be kind of bold, we kind of took the scraps that Duval County gave us and that St. John's didn't want. And because of the leadership of a lot of people in this room starting many years ago, that's no longer the case. It's no longer the case locally. It's no longer the case regionally. It's no longer the case on a statewide level. I give John Bowles a hard time because he's a good friend, and he's going to come up here and he swears it'll be 10 minutes. Good luck with that. To give a history of this project. But we all know that in any sort of athletic endeavor or competition, if you're running a marathon, which is what this has been a marathon, you train all the time, not for the first, how many miles in a marathon, 26, whatever. You don't train for the first 20. You don't really train for the last 5. You train for the last mile. And the last mile is what can be extraordinarily challenging. So I'm going to tell you three quick stories, very quick stories, about the last mile for this project, in hopes that it gives a context for the first 25 that so many people in this room were a part of. 3 kind of forks in the road. All the work that was done, all the prep work, and how we almost lost it. We almost lost it 3 different times. The first was mid-2012, 2013. If you remember, this road was first coming on. Former Jacksonville Mayor Alvin Brown had a big stink about not wanting to be a toll road. Y'all remember that? Maybe you don't. But they certainly remembered it in Tallahassee. Because I remember Mayor Brown at the time said, over my dead body, are we going to have a toll road in Duval County? In which case, all our friends in the Florida Panhandle and other parts of the state said, that's just a great idea. We're all for that. You should have no toll roads. And while you're at it, we're going to take that First Coast Expressway money and apply it to other things that we're going to do throughout the state. We're more than happy to help. And it was the leadership at the time, and our leadership in Tallahassee at the time, that for the first time really ever in a long time, stepped forward and said, Jacksonville doesn't speak for Clay County. We got our own designs, what we want to get done here. And that road ain't going anywhere. And thanks to Governor Scott and his team at the time for siding with Clay County and believing in us when they had every reason to pull the plug, when our big brother to the north was telling us that we didn't really need this. This wasn't going to happen. And Clay County said, heck no. That was the first fork in the road. Jacksonville doesn't speak for Clay. Second fork in the road was, a lot of folks don't know this, but this road was originally set to start in St. Johns County. Not 3 legs of the expressway plus the bridge, right? First leg in Duval County coming down into Oakleaf to Blanding, second leg Blanding all the way down to south of the Green Cove. Third, you got Shands Bridge, and third leg taking it from just over the Shands Bridge out of Greater St. Augustine. We think of it now as that's how it's always been, how it always will be. It was the opposite at the time. It was going to start in St. John's at the time, not in Clay. Yet another example of Clay kind of getting second, just getting in second place. But it didn't last. They were having trouble with St. John's. St. John's couldn't figure out the money. They were negotiating, haggling, all that sort of stuff. And it was Clay County, former county manager Stephanie Kopalousis leading the team, along with a lot of our folks in the legislature and the executive level, that said, St. John's doesn't speak for Clay. We're going to do it. We'll put the investment in. We're ready to go. We're ready to do business. And so that's one of the reasons why they still don't have a road, and we've got 2. Okay? That's the second fork in the road. The third fork in the road, the final fork in the road, had to deal with the Shands Bridge. Not many people know this story. This is a number of years ago. This is after I was elected. This is probably early 2020s, right around the COVID era when, at the time we didn't really know what budgets were going to be, and we're having a hard time explaining, what was going where and which budgets. And the St. John's Bridge went out for bid, and the bids, if you're all in the business, coming out of COVID, prices were nuts. As you all know, pricing, and it was very difficult for people to get a good handle on what is going to cost to build something. And so the bids on the new Shands Bridge came back dramatically over what DOT had budgeted. I remember I got a call, Jennifer Bradley got a call from probably the lowest level functionary in DOT. The secretary calls you when it's good news. The lowest guy calls you when it's bad news. And the lowest guy called me and said, "Hey, Representative Garrison, I had to break this to you. But we're going to have to pull the plug on the Shands Bridge. It's just we just don't have the money for it, and so we're going to take it all back, start again from ground zero, and try to see if we can get a better based on value engineering and all that sort of stuff." Well, those of you in bureaucratic land know that when they say start over again, that means start over never. And we would probably still be negotiating, and that also means the money, if it was going to go for it, goes somewhere else, and you got to fight for the money against Miami and Tampa and Orlando and all these other places. And it was going to be a death knell for Clay County and for the folks in Green Cove who need that bridge and the project as a whole. And I remember talking to Senator Jennifer Bradley at the time, and I was a young legislator, certainly not senior at the time. And we took the message, sat down in our conference room and talked about it, and we said, we got to call him back. And just when you're, you ever seen the image where there's I forget the movie, it's like a Disney movie or something, where somebody's walking in, they see the shadow on the wall of like this fierce predator. It turns out it's a little mouse standing in front of a light, like acting like they're big. Well, that's what Jennifer and I were doing at the time. And we got the guy at the phone. I remember saying, "Look, we can't stop you if you want to do this. I don't have the power to do it, but I promise you, if you pull the funding on this bridge, you're dropping a nuclear bomb on Clay County, and I will remember." And Jennifer said the exact same thing. We have long memories around here. And what do you know? 2 days later, we got a call back and said they had rethought their priorities and it was going to work just fine. And again, thanks to Stephanie Kopalousis, who was helping us, like crazy behind the scenes. And so those three issues, when we beat the toll roads, when we flipped it from St. John's to Clay, and then when we saved the bridge, three instances where that last mile, all the work that was done up to the very end was at risk. But the overarching theme is it's because Clay County learned to speak with one voice. Even though we're 240,000 people right now, and Jacksonville's got Lord knows what, and St. John's has too many. We've learned to outkick our coverage and do more with less because we speak with one voice, because we trust each other, and we work together as a team. And so for us, this is more than a road. It's a culmination of decades of teamwork to make this county great. So thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk. Look forward to hearing John his very brief remarks soon about the history of the project. And God bless you. Thank you all for being here.
Man, I love somebody who can speak off the cuff and get a point across. Thank you. Thank you. Hey, at this time, John, I lost you. Oh, there you are. Okay. So I think you've almost been well introduced. So if you're okay with that, at this time, we would like to have Mr. John Bowles come up, and he's going to give us a brief historical representation of the expressway through the county. So please, come on up.
Thank you, Crawford.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
As a brief introduction, so Crawford called me. He says, "John, I want you to come speak to this group and talk about the First Coast Expressway." I said, "That's fine." I said, "How long you want me to speak?" Well, first of all, I said, "I need about 2 hours." Okay? Crawford says, "You have 10 minutes. 10 minutes to talk about 50 years of history." So here goes. I came back to Clay County in 1973. I was living over in Pensacola, wanted to get back. And make a long story short, I was working for the Georgia Pacific Corporation, driving US Highway 17 every day, going to Jacksonville, up around 8th and Main, over to Talleyrand and so forth. Saw a county commissioner one afternoon, post office in Green Cove. He says, "John," he said, "we have a position that's going to open with the county government for county engineer." And I thought, "Oh, this ought to be good. Why are you talking to me?" He said, "I want you to apply." I said, "No, sir, I'm not interested." Make a long story short, 3 weeks later, I accepted a job as the assistant county engineer because I didn't have to drive to Jacksonville. And I thought when I was going to and from work, who is planning transportation here in this area? They must be asleep at the wheel. We need some relief. Well, anyway, make a quick story short, or long story short, in working for county government, in 1972 and 73, in that era, the Department of Transportation annually had a workshop to talk about transportation issues. Jim Knight's predecessor was a guy by the name of Jim Pittman. And Jim ran a planning meeting up in Fernandina Beach, as I recall. A number of us were there. I'd been working for the county for about 3 weeks. I knew absolutely nothing. I had no idea who these people were and so forth. Well, anyway, there were several people that got up and complained, not only from Clay County, but all around the region, that traffic is a nightmare. It is already a problem. This is 1973. County had a population, I think, of about 31,000 when I came to work for the county. So as a result of that, people started talking about the need for some sort of outer beltway on the outside of Interstate 295. And I thought, boy, that's a long stretch. Well, anyway, it wasn't long thereafter, as the county's spokesman for transportation, I get to attend all these meetings with the DOT and the feds and so forth. We start talking about road needs in Clay County. Blanding Boulevard was still a two-lane road. The two-lane road coming through Orange Park was US Highway 17 with the whole rickety bridge out there and so forth. A lot of needs for the county. As time moved on, we started talking about this outer beltway. And as a matter of fact, I had a chance to serve on several committees working with the Jacksonville, both politicians and staff. And of course, as Sam pointed out, they were not interested in particularly wanting to help Clay County. As a matter of fact, I think they were our biggest hindrance at the time. As time marched on, several years went by, and we were able to serve on certain committees and so forth, working with the DOT. And finally, we started talking about the Brandon Field Road extension into Duval County. It would connect with Rampart Road. Well, we didn't get very far with that particular project for 2 or 3 years, and the traffic continues to increase, things get worse and so forth from a transportation standpoint. And finally, the county government, we acquired property on the Brandon Field Road. We paved the first portion of it, and we told Duval County, we're coming. And you guys need to get ready. We're going to make that a new road from Clay County up into Jacksonville, Duval County. Well, as things started to unfold, the Duval County powers that be were not going to have any part of it. And we continued to plug away, working with DOT, working with the feds and so forth. So time marched on. I changed jobs, left the county government, went to work for the town of Orange Park, but I was still the county's representative on then the MPO, the Metropolitan Planning Organization, and working with the Technical Coordinating Committee. Gave me many contacts. Let me pause there for a second. As we began this morning, a number of people were honored and recognized. And I certainly am just tickled to death to still see you guys still kicking as well. I'm telling you. Because as all of you can remember, a lot of those people are no longer with us that we work with back in the good old days, if you will. So anyway, the concept of an outer beltway came about, and then, as I recall, Rob Bradley became a county commissioner and later became a state senator. Sam comes along as a law partner, and he's part of this conspiracy, if you will, to build this outer beltway. And sometime around 2000, 2001, the moniker changed from the Outer Beltway. It would now be known as the First Coast Expressway. And certainly the county commission had foresight to hire Stephanie Kopalousis, because Stephanie had been the Secretary of Transportation at the state level. She comes over here, is our county manager, and she gets things rolling because she knew the inner workings of DOT and how to accomplish things. Building a highway with DOT is a long, arduous planning process. But finally, it dawned on somebody, maybe we can use monies that comes from the state's expressway authority and powers. And sure enough, the Outer Beltway becomes First Coast Expressway, starts to become a reality with the help of Rob and certainly Sam and other representatives. Finally, the funding comes along in spite of other areas of the state trying to eat our lunch. And sure enough, the Outer Beltway becomes the First Coast Expressway, gets funded with DOT. They start work on it, acquiring right-of-way, design, and so forth. And sure enough, the first leg extends from Interstate 10 down to Blanding Boulevard. I don't believe I have seen Alberta Hips here today. I apologize if I have not seen her. She was very instrumental. As a Duval legislator, she was very, very friendly to the needs of Clay County. And I'd really like to thank her for all of her efforts. Once again, I've given you about 50 years of history in less than 10 minutes, and I'll be around to answer any questions that you may have. Once again, Crawford, thank you very much.
Sam, I guess I owe you a Coke or something for boxing that in. Mr. John, thank you so much. That was kind of, to me today, as I started out, it's a celebration, but it's also a history lesson. And it's also an appreciation day for those who had the vision, that had the dream, that had the commitment, and the stick-to-itiveness to make it happen. So now we're going to enter into kind of a next phase that just kind of explains, brings everybody up to speed on what's going on, from DOT to the expressway in Clay County to what Clay County is leveraging off of that expressway and what that means to the county. Walter Klaus will kind of tie it up. He will talk about the bridge that most of us have seen that is, I don't know if rising's the correct word, growing, developing out of the river. It's an incredible process to me to watch that happen. So Walter will tag in there, and after that, I'll come up and have a few more comments, and we'll have a little celebration. I'll finally let you get into your cupcakes. I know it's killing you, but I'll let you get into your cupcakes. If anybody happens to run late and the time does get a little tight, we will see about having some lunch brought in, so you'll be okay. So with that, I would like to welcome Jim Knight with Florida Department of Transportation up to the stage. And Jim, here is...
So I joined this project very late, around the late 90s, but have worked on it for about 27 years since, and very hands-on until about 10 years ago. So it was a pretty exciting day. We got that last bid in last year, and it was a great bid. That was a huge day for us. So what is First Coast? Obviously, it's 46 miles of limited access connecting I-10 to I-95. Originally we were going to do it with a private equity model instead of a turnpike model. The crash and the Great Recession knocked that back, set us back somewhat. But it's had a lot of steps forward, maybe a small step back over the year. But it's we're finally there. Obviously, it's a 4-lane expressway. It could ultimately be widened out to 8 in the future. All electronic tolling. The one thing they left off on my slide, I want to point out, the Shands Bridge, if you only travel from 16 to County Road 16A in St. Johns County, that does remain free, but everything else will be tolled. So as you heard, planning started in the 70s. It started with the Brandonfield-Chaffee corridor coming down. It wasn't really at that time envisioned as an expressway. As time went forward, and certainly by the early 2000s, the vision was as a tolled expressway connecting the entire run. Again, after a lot of maneuvering, trying to get it funded, adjusting segments, looking at cost, we were able to go to construction on the first piece in 2013. That was a huge day. We should be completed with the road fully open all the way through St. Johns County, hopefully around 2030, 2031. This is the only environmental impact statement I've ever done in my 30-plus years with DOT where one of the goals of the project was economic development. Normally it's just safety, it's congestion relief. This was the only one we've ever done with economic development. That is as y'all well know, everyone like John was driving up to Duval County for work. First Coast was there to target that problem and keep more jobs local. You've certainly, and even with the expressway not finished, you've seen just considerable growth that it's already helped support. Lots of businesses have gone in the old Cecil Commerce area, and lots of subdivisions have come online, lots of residential. One other big factor in First Coast is hurricane evacuation. St. Johns County has no good way out. They have 95, but this was actually a big part of getting the Federal Highway Administration on board with the substantial impacts that the corridor had. What was the benefit to the hurricane evacuation and safety? So as you are all quite aware, In Clay County, we're open to US 17 now. We got the ramps open just in time for the fair at State Road 16. So we do expect to connect onto 16 next month, and you'll be able to go all the way to State Road 16 and just tie back to the existing Shands just before you get to the bridge. So obviously the biggest of those jobs is the Shands Bridge project. They're starting to make some pretty good progress. They're starting to see some piers come out of the water. The new bridge is 9,300 feet long and it'll have 65 feet of clearance. That was actually a big deal to Palatka, so it's such a regional project. So the new bridge does include a bike pedestrian trail that'll be attached to the bridge. They'll connect the two counties. And we are leaving portions of the old bridge on each end for recreational purposes. All plans on the bridge have been released for construction. The trestle is well underway. The temporary bridge to hold the cranes in shallow water is well under construction. And they're starting to make some pretty good progress out there. We've got that's one of the piers going in. There you can see the trestle being constructed and some pile work. Upcoming, they're going to work on sort of the larger piles and these large 60-inch cylinder piles. Those are very unusual. They're huge. The hammer to send those in is massive. You can stand in it. The next piece is going very well from County Road 16A over to County Road 2209 in St. Johns County. It's Demoya out of South Florida is the contractor. Again, we got a very good price there, and they are somewhat ahead of schedule and are working towards trying to hit bonus milestones to get that done very far ahead of schedule. And then our last piece with Mastec, again, they're a South Florida contractor, a very aggressive price at $207 million for the I-95 interchange and the connection to County Road 2209. They're working on some redesigns there that will likely even save even more money to both the department and the contractor going forward. And their clearing's well underway. If you drive 95, you can see exactly where the interchange is going to come in. And that's my presentation. So, okay.
Jim, thank you so much. So, it's incredible when you see it. There was a trivia question. Walter might cover it in his thing. It's always amazed me. I spent a little bit of time on the river, so the channel runs 30, 35 feet in the channel, and it kind of levels off pretty quick. So I asked the question one day, how long are the pilings that go down to the hard pan for the river? It's a junk trivia question. I tell everybody I'm an inch deep, a mile wide in questions I ask, and 175-foot pilings to get down to the hard pan. And I'm thinking, how do you even stack them on top of each other? All underground, all underwater, all under. So, Walter, they'll give you some to bounce around. So anyway, that's interesting. So Jim, thank you very much. We greatly appreciate FDOT's assistance to make this happen through Clay County. And look, guys, we're pulling for you guys to beat every schedule you can across the river and onto I-95. So with that happening, I would like to now introduce Mr. Ed Dendor with Clay County. Ed is in charge of the bonded transportation program from the county, and he will show you all the connectivity, primarily running east-west, that's connecting 17 and Life at 17 back over to the expressway and how that's growing. So Ed, thank you so much for coming in.
Well, good morning. First off, I got to start off with an apology. We imported the slides. The aspect ratio changed a little bit, so all our information is kind of crowded in the middle. That's not intentional. It just kind of looks a little funky, but bear with me if you could. So first off, by a show of hands, I'd like to see how many of you were here for what was the 6th annual back in May of 22 when I first kind of rolled on the scene, and maybe a year before that. Raise your hands high so I can get an idea. Okay, very, very good. Back then, maybe some of you may remember an analogy of the First Coast Expressway. I basically called it make sure I get this right, there we go. Basically called it a backbone that's running down the center of the county. Bond Transportation Program, or BTP as we affectionately call it, is a beautiful kind of rack of ribs. And so we're going to put these ribs attached to the backbone to create access coming off and supporting that backbone. We pitched, our team would provide the right ingredients, if you would. What are the right ingredients to make all that happen? And we were looking for what we called the secret sauce for success. Coming full circle here 4 years later, I asked myself, kind of really what were those right ingredients? What ingredients did we provide as the BTP team? So over the next few slides, there's some cut and pastes, if you would, from the presentation 4 years ago. When we pitched this plan, if you would. And when we pitched the plan for the secret sauce for our ribs on the backbone, we had what you hear a lot was maybe 50 years ago, 40 years ago, for our projects were concepts. One project, we had a starting point and an end point that ran through the woods. There was no layout. There was very, very, very little, if anything, as far as how is all this going to work out. So the right ingredients in pursuit of our project goals, which were build the right team, we had to get the right people on board, the right seat in the right bus, set expectations for the goals, and then drive toward those goals. A big part of the preparation was building a great, well-rounded team to conceptualize, design, acquire a lot of right-of-way, deliver permits, and then eventually build the improvements. So many times we'd get tasked, hey, how come we're not seeing any dirt moving? Well, there's a lot of things everybody understands has to happen before you can actually put the asphalt on the ground. And a large part of the secret sauce for success was communications, both internally, externally, as well as our partners to the public. Look, Crawford, I think I just broke your mouse. I fixed it. I got it. We're good, yeah. And so communications was basically the secret sauce that we had, I would say. In a very few short years, collaborative execution led our bond transportation team to touch well over 240 pieces of real estate through license agreements, temporary construction easements, and outright fee simple purchases. We incorporated multiple utilities, relocations, upgrades with Clay Electric, Clay County Utility Authorities, Green Cove Springs Utilities, TECO, AT&T, Verizon, another half dozen of unrecognized communication folks, as well as everybody's favorite, CSX. And a lot of the folks, engineers in here, understand how much fun that's to deal with CSX. While one injury on a job is too many, this project was also delivered with only one injury over the last 4 years. This is really a stellar safety record. If you look at the man hours, we had well over 675,000 man hours worked on this program, if you would. And so far, we have paid out over $155 million of the $180 million for the program. We've built 32.6 lane miles of road. We've added 24 new stormwater facilities and added roughly about 18 miles of new sidewalk and shared use paths. Now we'll take a look at each one of the projects, if you would, as a component of the program. And first up is project number 1 on County Road 218 from Pine Tree to Masters Pit Road. It's basically a 1 mile conversion from 2 to 4 lanes. Currently it's 70% complete with a forecast completion this summer. Project 2 is on County Road 209 from US 17 to Peters Creek Bridge. This is another 1 mile length, 2 to 4 lane conversion. It's 70% complete and on schedule to complete fall of this year, 2026. Projects 3A, these were operational improvements on Russell Road at 2 intersections at Oak Stream Road and at Watkins Road. Both of these intersection improvements and additional sidewalks were completed in fall of 2024. And also, if you notice, I go through the slides, there's quite a few accompanying partners with each one of these projects. So for example, on this one, you have GAI, the engineers, WGI, owner's representative, Kiewit, the contractor, and of course, county. And with each one of those, there's multiple layers of subs that have helped out through that whole process. Then there's project 3B, operational improvements to basically realign the intersection of Sand Ridge Road, County Road 209, and County Road 209B with a new roundabout. This project is nearing completion any day. They're within the next, say, 30 days of final completion. Then there's project 4. This is essentially Made operational improvements on Sand Ridge Road to well over 3 miles on Sand Ridge, which connects Henley Road to just west of Russell Road. And this project was completed February of 2025. And then there's project, I want to make sure I'm on the right slide. Then there's Project 5, which is at County Road 220 from Baxley to just west of Henley. And Project 6A, which is from County Road 315 to Maryland Avenue to US 17. Both are sporting basically a 1 mile conversion, again, from a 2-lane to a 4-lane road. Both of these projects will be shovel-ready for future growth demands and for future expansion. Richard Smith's going to be coming up after me to talk about what other traffic expansions are going on, as well as future expectations of the county. Both of these projects are 100% designed, are permitted, with 90% of the land acquired. And these, if you remember, I don't know, quite a few of you are in the engineering. Both of these projects were caught up in the federal 404 permit injunction, which happened a couple of years ago, where they took and moved all the state permitting out to the feds. It was really, call it a mess, but it was really fortunate because both of these projects are for future growth, not necessarily needed to get these done in the last 3 years. And last project is 6B. 6B is a new County Road 216, which is affectionately called Cathedral Oak Parkway, which runs from State Road 23 to Maryland Avenue. It's a brand new 3.3 mile stretch of 2 and 4 lane various sections. And this was completed last summer of 2025 to coincide with the opening of State Road 23. And if you take a step back, there's been a lot of planning. We talked about multiple decades, and this was one of these backbone, one of these ribs that connected that really all came together with a lot of support from folks in this room. And the project received in 2025 the Design Build Institute of America Regional Merit Award for roadway and transportation. So in summary, the bond transportation program is drawing to a close. The county committed funding, and the team really delivered. And really with that today, this will be the last time I'm representing the bond transportation program. And so while I have the floor, I'd like to express my deepest appreciation to all the folks that really helped really through the process over the last 4 years. So if I could, anybody that touched or part of it, I know you're getting a lot of engineering firms. If you guys could even just stand up so I can actually give you a big round of applause. Come on, stand up, stand up, stand up. Lena Smith and Hills, Decoy, there's a lot. Come on, there we go in the back. Thank you. Lena Smith and Hills, thank you. I appreciate it. So with that, I'd like to turn it over now to Richard Smith, the county engineer.
Thanks, Ed. I'll start out with basically what the interchanges themselves mean to the county and what's an update on. At Oakleaf, Jim, y'all built half a diverging diamond interchange. We are in the process of designing, getting permitted the other half, with plans to extend that road up and serve the Cheswick neighborhood off of Cheswick Oaks Avenue. That's in the design process now. The toll authority doesn't review plans as quickly as District 2. We're looking probably the earliest of summer of 27 of getting a permit to do that. Well, then we come back to Jim for $41 million to build a road. So, Jim, Blanding Boulevard is complete and open. Henley, it's a diverging diamond that everybody said was going to probably end the world. It's turned out to be pretty good and actually works. Cathedral Oak Parkway, other than a mast arm, Jim, that's got a weird little float in it, it's working and functioning very well. Highway 16, we spoke to the sheriff's office on Monday morning after the fair. The fair attendance this year was up slightly. The traffic worked wonderfully. And they attributed it to, oddly enough, Jim, I was explaining this to Jim earlier, the break in the diverging diamond when you're waiting for the light to change, that gave enough gap for the westbound traffic from Green Cove Springs to safely turn in, and it created its own little governing device. So that worked out very well. Governor's Park is an interchange that it's not signed, nobody knows about it, but the ramps will begin construction very soon. That will connect to our new Governor's Park neighborhood, and it is for Clay Dairy Parkway. So that'll be an interchange to be added between 17 and 16. And 17 is a standard interchange that is working fine. I had to keep that simple for the Putnam County drivers. Our projects that we're working on now and recently complete. I'm going to start with number one. This is doing a little bit of ciphering here, Jim. I figure that part left on the expressway, including the bridge, is about $1.5 billion. We probably spent that much to get to it, correct? Or more?
Yeah, we'll be at 2.
Will be about a $2 billion project. Well, about 2 years ago, we took newly elected Congressman Bean up Live Oak Lane and some of his staff. Live Oak Lane, if you've never been on it, first of all, don't ever go to Middleburg Barbecue if you've been invited there. It's not what you think. And that is a very, very bumpy road. Brian Campbell is here. Brian was with us. And it was an embarrassment to drive up to look at some land on the north end of the county at Veterans Park. I promise you, Brian, it is a much better ride. That road was completed 2 weeks ago. If we do have a ribbon cutting, I'm hoping we can invite you to come out there because it's an incredible difference. It's also the first leg of the northern county portion of the Sun Trail that will eventually connect from Jennings State Forest south to Goldhead Branch State Park, which is constructed, and that goes down into the Florida National Trail, also known as the Palatka Lake Butler Trail. That trail will give you the ability to go from Amelia Island to Lake Butler, and with other trails that'll take you over the Shands Bridge. So you can ride your bike to the beach from Fox Meadows soon. And number two is another industrial project where we got a grant from the state and we built a road. And we've got about a $350 million shingles plant coming out of the ground. Currently, I think we found out Crawford employs almost 100 people already. And that road was completed on March 31st. So again, very good partners with the state of Florida. And going down the list, we're constantly working on finishing up 17 with the DOT. They're resurfacing it throughout the entire county with the current phases through Green Cove, from Doctors Lake Bridge down to Cove Street. I assume the part in Orange Park will begin soon, as well as some other resurfacing out on 16 and on State Road 230 around Kingsley Lake. We've got a new two-lane section road that connects Town Center Boulevard Roundabout to 17. That began construction 2 weeks ago, and that'll be a very interesting road that will relieve some traffic off of 17, US 17, and another good connection, kind of a new rib for that part of the county. And the 4-lane widening of 220 and Henley Road, it should be complete this summer, with the bridge being open September. I think from that bridge closure, we saw some numbers on Blanding Boulevard that took I think the numbers went from about 50,000 cars a day, 45 to 50,000 cars a day, to over 60,000 cars a day when the bridge closed. We're hoping the closure of that bridge may be able to tempt Florida DOT in helping us with Bonded Transportation Project 5, which is permitted, ready to go, shovel ready, to extend the 4-laning of 220 westerly. That is a very important parallel route to take some of the relief off of Blanding. So we're looking at that in the future. The other piece of project number 11, I'll finish up with 11 at the top of the page, is the Wells Road intersection improvement. Jim Knight's been very instrumental in doing that. That's going to be a new one. I've seen one up in Snellville, Georgia that works. It is a displaced left turn, I think is the DOT name for it. You'll begin making your left turn to go south on Blanding somewhere around DeBerry, if you're familiar with the area. So it's going to be it'll be a new experience. Again, looks like it'll never work, just like the roundabout at Russell Road will never work. It'll work. So, and we're very blessed in the engineering department, have a very supportive county commission, and they have allocated over $40 million in the last 5 years. And with that, we've resurfaced 250 miles of road, improved 80 dirt roads, and we're forecast to spend $9.5 million this year for doing those projects. And
it really has helped us out a lot. So I want to finish up by saying with the projects that are coming up that are transportation related is a replacement of a bridge on County Road 217. We got a grant coming from Florida DOT that we've received that will help us rebuild a weight restricted bridge that's 76 years old. So it's probably getting old, and that'll allow the traffic, a lot of the diverted traffic when State Road US 301 it's kind of an outdoor laboratory. When they use that to change paving types and test paving, they'll divert traffic. Well, that detour is supposed to be County Road 218 to Blanding Boulevard to the First Coast Expressway. That's about a 30-mile plus detour off of 301 if you're going to I-10. They don't do it. They cross over a 10-ton weight-restricted bridge with a 40-ton loaded semi. So we're hoping that'll begin design immediately in the next month, and with project being constructed next summer. I want to close by mentioning one thing and taking a thank you outside the transportation world, if I can, Mr. Crawford, to Rob Bradley. Rob, Senator Bradley, we've been working on the Lake Geneva Restoration Project. This is an interesting project that a lot of folks think we'll just be cutting more trees down in 40 years. Whether we're cutting trees down or not, we'll hopefully at least be drinking water. This project is to resupply the Floridan aquifer and keep it to where we drink water. I grew up in Bradford, went to Florida, spent 35 years in Atlanta, drank from Lake Lanier for 35 years. You can drink lake water. It takes a lot to process it, to clean it up. We don't drink from the lake here. Whether you have a shallow well out in the country or you're drinking from CCUA, that's coming from the aquifer. So they've completed the project. It's now up to the good Lord to give us some rain. And in the meantime, we have 40 and 50-year-old pine trees that needed to come out of Lake Geneva to safely boat it and recreate there. And we've got a local contractor, CNS Site Prep, that's doing a fantastic job. They've completed a 180-day project in about 40 days. So when you get a chance, I want to give you an update from last night, show you some pictures. But we really want to thank the senator and his support and efforts to get that done. And the county's trying to do their part to make that a safe recreation tourist experience in the future. And thank you, Crawford.
Ed, Richard, thank you for taking the time to speak this morning, for being here, and to put a presentation together. I know how much fun that can be. At this time, we'd like to call Walter Claus with WGI, and Walter is all things with the bridge. And I was trying to think of something witty and all that kind of stuff. I couldn't put it together, so Walter, you're off the hook. So thank you.
Thank you, Crawford. Yes, I'm Walter Claus with WGI, and we've had the opportunity to be the lead designer on the Shands Bridge project with the design build team with Johnson Brothers and American Bridge. But before I go there anywhere into my presentation, I guess somewhat batting cleanup. I get to comment on a few things that were said earlier and maybe help clarify some things. And first of all, John Mahoney, great job in walking us down memory lane. And John and I have known each other for a long time. Our kids have grown up together here in the county, and that's a great thing. And I know, Crawford, you mentioned early on somewhat like a bridge over troubled water, but I don't look at it this way. I think the Judd song, Love Can Build a Bridge, is more apropos. And it is the love of Sam, the Bradleys, our people before us, for the county, the love for our county that has helped build not only this bridge, but the roadway that's connecting and is vital for Clay County. So change your tune from to Love Will Build a Bridge. Sam, Just a little bit of tidbit. I thank you very much for going to and making sure the bridge and the funding was there, but as also a little bit of information. While it was still over the DOT budget, it was still $80 million less than the second highest bidder on the job. So the county did, and the DOT did receive some benefit for that as well. Also want to point out, and Ed, when you were talking about Cathedral Oaks, County Road 216, I want to talk about the significance of that roadway. Because just like the First Coast Expressway, it is a north-south roadway through the county. Cathedral Oaks makes a connection between 218 all the ways to 17. So it is a connection from 17 to 301. And if you think about it, there's only one other road in Clay County that goes from 17 to 301, and that's State Road 16. So that is a very significant piece of roadway that helps with the mobility throughout the county, and that is a vital component of it to give us a somewhat of a grid of roadway transportation within the county. So, sorry, I had to. So I want to talk a little bit about the overview and history, and then kind of some of the construction things that have been occurring since the presentation last year, and then kind of what's next. I'm trying to speed up a little bit because I know I'm batting cleanup and I start talking anyway. As mentioned, the Shands Bridge project is shown in the bottom left. It's pretty much crossing over the St. Johns River, but it does include the roadway approaches somewhat to the west of the Shands Bridge and up to County Road 16A interchange. And this is needed for, as you heard, economic development, for moving peoples and goods and services, and it strengthens the county and the region out. Going back to history, we heard about history today, but really, it's all started with the original Shands Bridge that was completed in 1928. And I don't know how much of you know, but that bridge was conceived, funded, and built by private enterprise. It was not a state-built bridge. And believe it or not, there was a toll for that bridge because they wanted to get their money back for building that bridge. And it was 35 cents. John, did you drive across it?
Yes, I have.
See, there you go.
The fellow that did all that was Alvin G. Shands, who was a civil engineer in Green Cove Springs in the 20s.
There you go. and just to put it in perspective, that 35-cent toll today would be a $6 toll to cross the Shands Bridge. And John and Jim, you mentioned it's going to be free. At least the Shands Bridge part. So, and why was that conceived back then? Because it was the same reason. It was for economic development. It was to help tourism out between St. Augustine and Green Cove Springs. And so it's the same thing that's happening just 100 years or so later for the improvement. That bridge was upgraded in 1963. It was functionally obsolete, of course, and it actually burned down a couple of times, I think, and it had problems on it and to be repaired. So what's happening out there today? I think Jim touched on a lot of this already, that there is the trestle bridges have been built. There were test piles driven into the river wherever the pile bents were going to be located. And you saw those sticking up out of the water. So what has been, in addition to that, and I think that, there it is. Jim mentioned the 60-inch cylindrical piles. This was kind of an innovative design concept that our team came up with. These are large piles that are being driven into more on the shore sides, not into the main channel area. And so these piles, these are the first ones that were coming in and being placed into being constructed as part of the bridge construction. They're large, they're hollow in the middle, they're cylindrical piles. And so, and that's going to help speed up some of the construction on the project. That was why they were conceived. And so here you see another picture of those cylindrical piles as more are being driven into the existing muck areas out there. And you see the trestle pier as well there. Once they get to the point of fixity, then they cut off the remaining part of the piles, and then they pour the caps. They actually started, I think, one of Jim's pictures had one of the caps shown in that was already built on top of the piles for the cylindrical piles. In the main channel area, you see where there are 24-inch square piles being installed, and they're being installed in a cluster. And Crawford, I think you walked out, where they keep them in line. They usually use a template to make sure that when they place those piles in place, and so therefore they're not in conflict with each other. And you can also see the foundation work kind of in the bottom of the picture where the crane's sitting on the barge there. They're putting a cofferdam system around there, and then they're pouring concrete to build the footer for eventually the pier that will come out of there. And so here you'll see is the first footer that was kind of a milestone that was being poured several weeks back. And so this is the crew actually doing that work out there for that first footer. In addition to the bridge work, there's a lot of roadway work that's been ongoing for the past year. A lot of the muck on both sides of the river has been removed and backfilled with fill material. One of the other things I know that I get questioned a lot is early on, you probably saw a lot of these little flags sticking in the ground on the Clay County side. That those were wick drains that were being installed for what was a surcharge area where the ground underneath, deep ground underneath where the embankment and walls were going to be constructed was going to settle too much. And so the wick drains help, when we put all the dirt on top of it, helps remove the water out of there and compress these underlying soils. So therefore there's no issues with settlement of the roadway and walls in the future. And so that's where you see there's kind of the surcharge area that you probably, as you drive by there, you see that big old mound there. And eventually some of that will be used for the embankment for the project. So what's next? The bridge foundation and pier activities will continue further into the main river crossing. You'll start seeing what looks like a bridge come up out of the water. They'll be placing girders and other structural elements. And right now the project is on schedule and anticipated to be completed in 2030. I'm going to geek out a little bit here from an engineering perspective. This is something that the construction CEI firm is using to monitor the progress of the construction of the bridge. I don't know if Tom Woods is here with H&TB. They're the ones doing the CEI. But he provided me with this graphic here. And what it shows is on the far left is St. Johns County, on the far right is Clay County, in that middle of that graph there. And where you see those blue lines, those are the piles the 60-inch piles that have already been installed. Where you see it turn white, those piles have not been installed yet. And then you see on top of those on the left-hand side, that one little orange strip, that is the pier cap that was constructed over there on the St. Johns County side. So that's going to start filling in with orange on top of that as the more caps are done, and as they progress towards the main channel of the river, more blue will start moving to the right. Above that is then girders that get placed, and on top of that, kind of where that black line or the white line at the very top is pouring of the deck. So they're going to be monitoring everything on the progress of the project. On the Clay County side, you see again the blue. It doesn't go as quite as high because in this case, these are the 24-inch square piles. And so they're being placed at that level. They're being cut down. And then those caps that you saw in that video are being poured. And so those two caps are shown that they have been completed. And one pier is coming up out of the river. And so, again, that pier will then have the girder sitting on top of it. And so they're progressing from right to left over there from the Clay County side. There are some 60-inch piles also that are going to be needed in the Clay County section as you get closer to the shoreline as well too. But I just found this fascinating as how they're tracking the bridge. Hopefully you're an engineer for a day. And again, I think you saw what this is going to look like in the future is a 2 lanes in each direction with safe barriers to protect people from crossing over into the opposite direction, as well as high enough to prevent vehicles from going over the side. There's going to be the shared use path on the north side of the bridge to be able to look towards Green Cove Springs. Then it'll also be a lit bridge as well too. Something else that is coming up is that you're going to be seeing here, I think in another month or so, to improve on safety and mobility on the St. Johns County side for any of those that are driving over to St. Augustine. When you're coming around there, that is kind of a little dangerous there, trying to cross out and get into the crossover to Shands Bridge. So we're going to turn that into somewhat like a roundabout, but I just called it for a triangle bout because it's really a triangle out there. And so therefore that's the way this movement is going to occur. So therefore it's going to improve the mobility in that area and be a whole lot safer for the traveling public and for anybody that's crossing over. So when complete, again, this is going to facilitate continued economic development, optimizes the regional and local mobility, and improves safety and provides a more modern and more resilient crossing for not only us, but our children that hopefully will grow up here and stay here and work here in the future. With that, that's all I have, and hopefully I'll turn this back over to Crawford. Thank you.
All right. Amen. Thank you, Walter. Great job. Thank you. Thank you to all our speakers. We appreciate the update of what's coming in and around the expressway. We're going to try something. I don't know if this will work. They don't know we're going to try it, which I always know makes them really nervous. So what I would like to do, since I didn't think our distinguished guests would probably like to come up to the podium, but I would like to take a few minutes and pass the mic around to the distinguished guest. And I'd like you to share, if you feel led, your aha moment that when you were working on this thing and thinking about it 30, 40 years ago, you kind of stood up and you said, crap, I think we can do it. You know, I think we can get there. I think we can do it. You know, when the light came on, or a hurdle that Sam talked about hurdles. Rob's fought a lot of fires for hurdles, and somebody has to do that. And Rob, I always love to hear about hurdles because we all have them in life. In some way, we have to overcome them. So I want to take a minute, let you guys pass the microphone around, and just share briefly your aha moment with that. And so to start this on a super good note, I'm going to hand the microphone to Sharice.
I would think the light bulb for me, I mean, I was a commissioner at the time. We did the big groundbreaking with the lieutenant governor. But the big thing for me is honestly in my position today as an assistant county manager, because I do a lot of speaking events and speak to a lot of the community. And everybody in this room, I think, most of us at least, knew that this was still in the works. But the average Joe citizen did not. And I mean, so a lot of times I would put a lot of this up there, and it's funny how I don't think their light bulbs started coming on until they finally finished the first phase. And then I think the light bulbs started coming on again as you start seeing it by 16. And so for me, I think that's been one of the most interesting things is the fact that the normal Clay County resident who this is going to benefit immensely, especially with the economic development. I mean, all of you that are from here, I was born here, 30,000 people in the county when I was born here, and everybody drives out of county. So for the local normal citizen, the game changer for them is going to be so huge. And some of them may not still see the light yet, but it's going to be shining really bright here soon. So that's mine, Crawford.
Wendell Davis. My memory goes way back in the 80s and first involvement, I got invited somehow as a nobody to original groundbreaking with John Thrasher in the first few hundred feet of Clay County from Duval County, and we're standing about ankle deep in swampland territory. And we're going to put a roadway through here, and then the first pavement in Clay County. It's just amazing, that transition, the before and the after. And so thanks for all the speakers. You brought back any number of memories where we played a role. I spoke to Diane, and we were on the commission. It almost got stopped again, Sam. It was supposed to originally come right beside the ravines, and the ravines people stood up and fought it. And so some good people in this room worked it out and moved it over a little bit, and we're on our way. Who's next?
So I have to tell a story about Stephanie. Introduce yourself. Oh, yeah, I'm Jerry Agresti, for anybody that hasn't been here for the last 50 years. Way back in the 70s, when I was chairing the Committee 100, which is the predecessor to this organization, I remember standing up in front of the county commission, and Committee 100 was responsible back then for economic development. And I said, it isn't going to happen unless we have interstate through Clay County. And me and a lot of other people, as been mentioned, harped on that and harped on that and harped on that. Never let that idea die. And so Stephanie, who came from DOT, became the county manager. And so I started talking to Stephanie about, Stephanie, we need an interstate. We are the only county of this size in the state that has not 1 foot of interstate. And so when the first leg got done from I-10 to Blanding, she said, we now have interstate. And I said, yes, Stephanie, we're the only county that has an interstate that ends in a cul-de-sac. And she said, it's never enough, is it?
That sounds like her.
So my thoughts go back to the mid-'70s, and my sister-in-law, whose hair gets on fire a lot, was sure that it was going to go right through her house and she was going to lose her house, and that's all we heard about. Then in the 90s, I was on the city council from 93 to 99, and they were stuck on economic development in Green Cove. And I knew about the Outer Beltway, and I thought, you guys, we're a little early. We might want to wait till there's a road that comes near us, because 17 is just for UPS and people going other ways. So it was exciting to see that Green Cove now has an opportunity for economic development, and the Economic Development Committee, where'd it go, has been really a blessing for that part of the county. Last note, this is very personal. 5 years ago, I moved out to Williams Park, enjoying the river, but it was a haul until that Beltway opened. Oh, am I loving it. So good timing.
First of all, I don't think that we even say Stephanie Koppelus' name enough, because her experience both as a DOT secretary and then moving to the county manager position, and then just being such a good coach and being a player too, but being a coach through all of this. If there's an indispensable person, I think it would be Stephanie. But my thought today goes to a gentleman that many of us love, named Greg Clary. Remember Greg? He left us too soon. He probably surveyed much of the property. As a matter of fact, I know he did. Much of the lands that became the Beltway and straightened all that out, which is a very important and particular work, particularly when you're tromping through swamp and stuff like that. Well, when things were hot, and everybody, obviously Sharice mentioned the idea that the community can sometimes be conflicted on these things because, with development comes a lot of new people, a lot of things that make folks who like a more rural way of life uncomfortable understood. And that's appropriate to have those tensions, but we move forward and time marches on. But back then, you know, it was one of those fork in the road moments where the community kind of needed to decide whether this was worthwhile or not. And there were a lot of voices that did not think this was worthwhile because they wanted to preserve the rural way of life. And I remember talking to Greg, and Greg said, you know, I was like, what's your thoughts on this? Because Greg had a house out, and Tina still, I believe, lives there, out where the road was going in. So it would be near him, so he would not be as rural as he used to be. But he started telling me about the story of Butler Boulevard in Jacksonville and how we all know it now because Mayo Clinic's out there. And so many in Town Center, right? And then it connects to the great roadways that all connect to this roadway now. But back then, it was just sand hills, and people thought they were crazy when they built it. And they thought they were crazy. And he said, just look at Butler Boulevard, look at where it is now, look at where it's going, close your eyes, imagine, and that's what this is. But that's for us. So anyway, love Greg. He's one of the most special people ever. He always gives you a little Bible, Gideon. He was a Gideon. And anyway, that was my thought.
My name is Jennifer Carroll, former Lieutenant Governor and former state representative. And during the time that I spent as a state representative, one of the first things I did, Clay County and Duval counties were two of the counties in my district. The very first thing I did, I went to the chairperson of the Clay County Commissioner, who was George Bush at the time. And I asked George Bush, what was your priority for the county? And he said, my only priority is the Outer Beltway. We've been trying to get that for 10 years and we haven't been able to get that. I want to recognize John Bowles for mentioning Alberta Hips. Standing on the dirt with Frank Spencer, Brandon Field Chafee Road, Kendallwood, seeing that an opportunity could exist for something. It wasn't an Outer Beltway back then. We were just calling it, I can't remember, expressway. I don't even know what we called it back then. But I went to the Secretary of Transportation at that time and asked for my priority to get money for the funding for this roadway. And at that time, the Secretary would not let any money for this roadway because South Florida and Central Florida was getting all the transportation monies. Then an idea came from some entities, some stakeholders. How about making it a public-private partnership? In order for us to do that, I had to get legislation passed through so that we can have a public-private partnership for this roadway. That took a lot of work and a lot of cajoling, and it passed. Actually, the amended bill was House Bill 1213 that was passed unanimously, creating the pathway for this roadway to at least be approved. Then the objection came with the funding. Fortunately, I had the opportunity to be Lieutenant Governor, and seated at the table, hearing all of the other projects from the Secretary of Transportation at that time, Anant Prasad, talking about moving monies from Pensacola to South Florida, from Central Florida to South Florida, et cetera. And South Florida was getting all the money. And seeing that pockets of money could be moved for projects, yet still the Outer Beltway was not funded at that time. I asked him, can you make a way so that we can get some money funded for this roadway to start? He came back and he said, ma'am, I'm able to get some money moved because once we start monies into a project, it would not stop. And maybe we could break it up in phases so that the project will be able to move forward. And because of Anant Prasad getting money let to start this project from the Jacksonville area coming into our county, what started the auspice of this roadway. When we had meetings, actually the FDOT had meetings in this room with citizens who did not want a roadway, a toll road, because they said, I wouldn't be able to drive on it, I won't be able to afford it. And we had to push back on some of those things, and I had to go back to FDOT asking for a free road, the collector road on the sideways, and people still didn't believe it, that they'll be able to drive it for free, but it's a use road. And if you use it, you pay for it, and that's how we're going to fund it. And this was happening all over the country at the time for the public-private partnership. Now, when I ride the roadway, you wouldn't even imagine that we didn't want people to have a toll road, to have that access to get to and from. But we were known in Clay County as a bedroom community. 60% of our workforce is going outside of the county to get to work. We can see that development and growth now so that we can grow prosperously, and with our good county commissioners and our leaders in this county, we can grow responsibly so that we can have a better future for Clay County and the other counties that benefit from this Outer Beltway. Thank you very much.
Very quickly, I've had enough aha moments in my life. So I'd like to close on a historical note. I had mentioned Alvin G. Shands that built the original Shands Bridge in 1928. He was part of a, can you hear me out there? Okay. He was part of an economic development group in Green Cove Springs, and he wanted to make sure that you could get over to St. Augustine from a tourist development standpoint. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay. Anyway, make a long story short. So he tried to get the county to fund the bridge. They wouldn't do it. The state said, we don't have any money. We can't do that. So he funded it himself. He borrowed the money and built a toll bridge that remained in operation for about 10 years. Now, to go back and sort of touch base on how this happened. This was Alvin G. Shands, a civil engineer in Green Cove Springs. His family and his brother lived across the river, where? In St. Johns County, and they were very prominent. Make a long story short, he built the bridge at his expense. DOT finally picked the bridge up about 10 years later and made it part of the state road system. So once again, my hat's off to A.G. Shands and his foresight to see what was going on. Thank you.
Sam, I want to say thanks to you too. I had some notes I wanted to mention, and one of them was, you know, when you have a big vision, a lot of times you'll have intersections, and it can go left and it can go right, it can go back to the middle, it can go back. And everything we do in life typically has different intersections that we have to cross. I will say, thank God, most of mine are not diverging diamonds, FDOT, but I am able to get through most of my intersections. So thank you for bringing that up, because part of what and I'll change out mics real quick for you guys. So part of what I wanted to talk to, and part of what I wanted to say thank you to this group is, you had to, at some point, somebody had to create a vision. There had to be a conversation. And out of that conversation, there had to be some commitment. And there had to be some more commitment. And there had to be some more commitment. And out of that, it took a lot of service. A lot of people gave a lot of time. They gave a lot of energy. They gave resources. They gave expertise to make this happen. You've seen that exemplified today by those who helped lay the groundwork for the First Coast Expressway. So again, I want to say thank you. Thank you. Oftentimes, somebody will have a vision, but somebody near them will say, that's too big. We can't do that. We don't need that. Rob mentioned it in some of his talks. Yeah, we do. We do. We always, as a community, need people who have a vision about where we are going tomorrow and what does it take for us as a community to get where we're going for tomorrow. And so I always applaud the people that had the vision. And I know there are people that threw rocks and threw stones and you get frustrated, but we all as leaders need to be around other leaders that says, let's sharpen the point on that and see if we can make that happen. Let's see if we can do something to make that a reality, make that an accomplishment. Circle around with other leaders. It's kind of the old saying, as iron sharpens iron. It's that way in community leadership too. It's like that in business, it's like that in life. This conversation, you've heard it mentioned several times today that this was a conversation from 50 years ago. Reinhold found it in their minutes being discussed in 1978. We found a newspaper article that referenced a conversation back in the 1950s. But somebody had a vision, is really my point. Somebody had a heart, somebody had a vision. Jerry very succinctly said, we've got to have an expressway. We're the only county in the state that an expressway doesn't cut through. It's the lifeblood of a lot of communities when you add that to the community. So I want to encourage you, think big. You're the leaders of Clay County. You're the leaders of this region, of this state. Think big. Have big visions. Have visions that you think about and you go, oh crap, what am I thinking? You know? Scare yourself with big visions that move us forward as a community. Let me encourage you to do that. Don't limit yourself. And look, I get it. You get a certain age and you get a certain time and you get a certain point in your career and all of a sudden you're focusing on grandkids. And you bring a lot of wisdom to a conversation that needs to be in that conversation a lot of times. So don't stand back and step to the sidelines. Stay engaged. Stay partnered. Support visions and support people who bring good opportunities to a community and to a state. So what's next? Everybody's going, oh my God, what do you mean? What's next? We're not through yet. Oh my God. I get it. But what's next? What's the next big step that we as a community need to start focusing on for that next generation? What's the next step? I don't know what that is, but there's some smart people in this room, and there's some people that have great visions and great thoughts about what can be. And so let me encourage you to do that. Just encourage yourself that maybe that's not a bad idea. Maybe we can do that. But let me encourage you to have big, crazy, audacious visions and get encouraged. I'm a guy that I float a lot of balloons. I kind of say what I think and they float up and they start out and somebody says, hey, that's good. And somebody else says, oh, that's stupid. And they pop that balloon and I float another one. And I'm okay, personally, I'm okay with that. That's just kind of, my wife's probably said, are you crazy? A million times. But a couple of good ideas do float up every now and then. And so let me encourage you, step into that gap and let some of your ideas float on up to the top. We started a video a moment ago. There's a video that our video team has put together. It's kind of a compilation of where we started and where we are at now. So let me let you watch this brief video, and then we will have a couple of closing remarks, please.
In 1974, someone drew a line on a map, a line through pine forests and open pasture, through wetlands and creek beds, through a county where most people left every morning and didn't come home until dark. That line was an idea, a road that would change everything. It took 51 years to build it. Clay County, Florida, just south of Jacksonville, a place known for its schools, its safe neighborhoods, and its stubborn traffic. For decades, this county held a distinction no one wanted. Over 75% of its workforce commuted out of Clay County every day just to go to work, the highest rate of any county in the state. The roads couldn't keep up. Blanding Boulevard, US 17, State Road 16, two-lane arteries carrying the weight of a community that was growing faster than anyone expected. From 140,000 people to nearly 200,000 in just 20 years. Something had to give. Construction started in 2012, with the first segment running 18 miles from I-10 in Duval County South to Blanding Boulevard in Clay County. That segment was finished by 2019. Then, construction began on the second segment, 28 miles through Clay County, with 7 interchanges. No widening an old highway, no adding a lane here and there. This was new ground. carved from scratch through wetland and forest in limestone. At Black Creek, they drove over 100 pre-stressed concrete piles into the earth, each one 30 tons. Then floated 55 steel and concrete beams into position on barges, each beam over 90 tons, and lifted them into place with cranes that towered above the tree line. This was the first project in the district to use three-dimensional machine guidance, no guesswork, just precision, on a scale this area had never seen. Year by year, the footage tells the story. Dirt becomes graded earth. Graded earth becomes roadbed. Roadbed becomes lanes. And one day, you look down from a drone, and you don't see a construction site anymore. You see a road. 3 diverging diamond interchanges, the first ever built them in this part of Florida. Designed in open field, with nothing around them. Every angle set by survey. 41 bridges across the Clay County segment alone, and all of it ahead of schedule. On August 9th, 2025, 18 miles of the First Coast Expressway opened to Clay County drivers, months before the projected spring 2026 deadline. 5,000 to 8,000 cars a day diverted off local roads, faster commutes, faster emergency response times, 20 hours a year given back to every driver who uses it. For the first time, Clay County residents had a choice. But this road was never just about traffic. Within miles of the new interchanges, a $270 million manufacturing facility is rising. Thousands of new homes are being planned. Industrial parks are planned along and nearby the First Coast Expressway, ready for what comes next. Clay County is projected to grow to nearly 300,000 people in the coming decades. The First Coast Expressway was built for that future, and it's not done yet. A new bridge over the St. Johns River, nearly 10,000 feet long, is under construction now. When it's finished, the old Shands Bridge, first opened in 1928, will become a 672-foot fishing pier, a reminder of the road that came before. By 2030, the full 46-mile expressway will connect 3 counties, carry over 55,000 vehicles a day, and serve as a critical hurricane evacuation route for millions. 51 years from a line on a map to a road beneath your wheels. This is what building the future looks like. The First Coast Expressway.
Thank you. For some of you guys that were a part of the initial planning, I hope this makes you feel so proud of the hours and the time and the energy and the efforts you put into that. Thank you on behalf of Clay County and for our region. Thank you for your investment. So with that, we were going to have bourbon, we were going to do tequila, we thought about champagne, but we ended up with a cupcake. so on behalf of this little celebration this morning, we couldn't cut a big wedding cake and get it served. So if you would please take a cupcake, and that is kind of our slicing of the cake. The bride is now betrothed, and please enjoy your cupcake. We do have 1 or 2 more things to do, so just bear with me patiently, please. But please enjoy your cupcake. Table leaders, if you will reach up under your seat and get the box and open the box, there should be a little token in there for everyone at your table. If you would please do that for me. And Mr. John Cantrell and staff from the chamber, I think, are going to help us. So we could not, because they did a soft opening of the toll roads on the expressway, we were not able to have an official ribbon cutting, but we are going to have a simulated ribbon cutting this morning. And I would initially like to invite our distinguished guests to come up and be part of the ribbon cutting.
Everybody stay put. We're going to move that banner up identify this. Yeah, because it's lopsided a little bit.